Hello, everyone. Welcome to our February edition of the Qualifieds Brunch and Learn. We are so glad to have you all with us so far. And we are going to continue opening our doors and opening the room to allow folks to come in as the meeting progresses. But we want to say hello to everyone who has signed in so far. Welcome to a fresh, hopeful year and month. We're still at the early part of 2024, and we are expecting great things in this year. Just a little bit of information about me. My name is Japera Denson, and I'll be serving as your host for today. So whether you are live with us or whether you're watching on demand, we want you to know that we are so glad to have you in our audience. So the Qualified is here to serve you in many ways. We're here to provide continuing educational opportunities, just like this Brunch and Learn that we offer every single month. And then we also provide exam certification preparation, job placement. We help with recruitment, so many things. We even help with tutoring, online courses. There's a wealth of information on our website that we encourage you to check out so that you can learn more about the Qualified and how we can serve you and other health information management or health information technology professionals in the area. So for those of you who are live, we encourage you to please utilize the chat feature today throughout the presentation. We want you to engage with our presenter. We want you to ask questions. And let's go ahead and get started now. So we're going to do a little warm up, okay? And we know that there's already been a prompt dropped in our chat by Julia Meyer. She's working behind the scenes for us today. And then, so please do go through the chat feature, access the chat feature, and let us know a little bit about you. Let us know where you're joining us from, or let us know what certification you are acquiring or have already obtained or are maintaining with AHEMA. Let us know a little bit about your current role if you'd like to share that as well. Maybe what you're currently doing in the profession. All right, so I see a couple of things popping up in that chat box. Let's get it warmed up in here today, everybody. Listen, today's Brunch and Learn is going to be an absolute treat. I feel like I say that every single month because every month we offer really, really, really enriching presentations. But I feel like today's no exception. Like it's going to be great as well. So joining us with an invigorating presentation on leadership is Noelle Dell Brown. Now, Noelle is an HIM document imaging manager at Yale New Haven Health System, and she is passionate. And I say passionate, when I say passionate, I want you to envision all capital letters, okay? Passionate, all uppercase about leadership, okay? It is just running, seeping out of her pores. And we love that. She has more than a decade of supervisory, managerial, and clinical experience within health informatics, information governance and compliance, and patient access services. So she is coming to us with a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of passion, and it's going to run out of her cup today and flow onto us. All right. So we're getting the overflow today. All right. So let us welcome at this time, everyone, Noelle Dell Brown. Noelle, welcome to the Brunch and Learn stage. It is
Thank
all
you.
yours, my friend.
Thank you so much. That was such a beautiful introduction, Japera. Thank you. And I just want to give thanks to you and Dr. Sabri, who is a tremendous mentor and coach. And I wouldn't be doing this Brunch and Learn service without really giving credence to Dr. Sabri, who has reignited within me the passion to do what I'm doing today. So all credence and thanks and blessings go out to the team Qualified and to Dr. Sabri. So thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. All right, so today we're going to talk about leading from within, unveiling the heartbeat of purpose and values. And we're going to delve into the profound essence of authentic leadership and the transformational power of aligning your actions with a compelling purpose and unwavering values. It's a very nice way of saying understanding what this leadership thing is about. That's really what it's about, right? And if I could really just talk about what made me passionate about doing this is my own journey as a leader, is understanding as I went through my journey and took on different roles in leadership in healthcare, just things that I've learned along the way that I've compiled and I'm now sharing in this presentation with everyone. And hopefully the goal is that folks will take from it some tools to put in their own toolbox to help you along your journey. Next slide, please. All right, so a little bit about me. I'm still working on feeding my good wolf. And we'll talk a little bit about what wolf I'm referencing here. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm a lover of making and learning from mistakes, right? There are mistakes, right? Lessons. I'm a truth seeker, always looking for the lessons in things. I'm passionate about learning to lead the right way. I am Jamaican by background, and I have worked for many years in nonprofit work, delivering health education through radio and television. I'm also an adjunct professor in health information management, lifelong learner, and an educator. Next slide, please. All right, so let's talk about the tale of the two wolves, okay? Here on this slide, it says the tale of the two wolves, which one will you feed? And when I saw this story, I was really, really intrigued and tickled by it, right? It's so philosophical and has a lot of nuggets in it that I think a lot of people can learn from. So the tale of the two wolves it speaks metaphorically, right? And giving us a deep understanding of self-awareness and leadership. So the tale speaks of a discussion between an elder and his grandson. And in this discussion, he explains within us is an inner conflict. Think of it as an inner conflict, right? Two wolves fighting within us. The grandson asked the grandfather, well, which wolf wins? So he's telling him a story of two wolves fighting in us. It's a conflict. And the grandson turns and says to him, which wolf wins? And the grandfather says, the one you feed, the one you feed. So as we're going along this presentation today, think of this tale, because throughout the presentation is woven into it the framework of the story of the two wolves. So this tale places the responsibility on us as individuals to realize that we have the power of choice, right? In each moment, understanding that we can choose to harness or to harm in every moment. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the meaning of the tale, right? So earlier I stated in each moment you can choose to harness or you could choose to harm. Notice here we've referenced harnessing is feeding your good wolf. Harming is feeding your bad wolf. Ways in which you can harness is being inspirational, being a risk taker, right? Being humble, being a clear communicator, being empathetic, being honest, being transparent, breaking down silos, whether in your workplace or in your family relationships, in whatever context these show up for you. In each moment, you have the opportunity to harness, to pay attention to feeding your good wolf. Now, on the other hand, you can choose to harm. You can choose to feed your bad wolf. How do you do that? Well, choosing to be microaggressive, choosing to be dominant, choosing to stereotype, choosing to victim blame, choosing to abuse power given to you, right? Choosing to be deceiving, choosing to withhold information, not being transparent, not being open, not being helpful, and I could go on and on. So these are ways in which we would choose, again, placing the responsibility in the hands of the individual to know that in every moment you have the opportunity to either harness or to harm. Next slide, please. I love this slide. I had the opportunity to meet Laura Marquez, and she is a TEDx speaker, very prominent senior director of digital transformation in a hospital in Utah. And we had the opportunity to speak, and Laura shared with me her leadership journey, right, as a senior leader, and spoke of how ways in which she was harming, right, unknowingly harming, choosing behaviors that were harming those around her. And one day, Laura shared with me that her boss in a meeting, Laura was being very dominant, very abrasive and just speaking very, harshly, unknowingly, right? And her boss took her to the side very gently in a coaching session, said to her, Laura, you cannot get to the top. You will not get to the top by stepping on other people. And Laura stated, and she was very transparent about this in her TED talk, that that moment really took her aback. It really allowed her to reflect on who she wanted to be as a leader, in the way she comported herself, in the way she spoke to others, in the way she inspired others. She made a decision in that moment that she was going to um, put forth behaviors that, instead of harming, would harness and bring forth the good in others. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the crisis. Why is any of this even important? Okay, we're going to go a little bit into what are some of the crises that are being faced. So according to the Harvard Business Review, and based on some research that I did and the ADP Research Institute put forth, 18% of employees are fully engaged at work. That means 82% don't feel fully engaged at work. 82% of 100 do not feel engaged at work. 17% of employees feel a sense of resilience at work, but that also means 81% of employees do not feel resilient at all at work. That's a big number. 14% of employees trust their senior leaders. That means 86% of employees do not feel a sense of trust for leadership at all. And in a study done from the CDC, they reported 71% of employees had one symptom of whether work-related stress or feeling a sense of anxiousness and overwhelm. I did also a little bit of extra digging on learning about the crisis that is happening in leadership. And there's a beautiful book currently written by John Baird and Edward Sullivan. It's called Leading with Heart. And in this book, Edward and John speak about their perspective on the crisis relating to leadership. And here he says, there is no arguing that we are in the middle of a leadership crisis. And not just in politics, but in the business world as well. We know this first and foremost because people aren't excited about their work. According to Gallup, 2 in 3 Americans are not involved in an enthusiastic about their work and the workplace in which they are. And 50% are actively looking for a new job. A separate report by the Society for Human Resource Management indicates that 25% of American workers actually dread going to work because they don't feel safe voicing their opinions about work-related issues and don't feel respected and valued at work. In the same report, 84% of employees say that bad managers create unnecessary stress for them. Very important to note, right? And while it's hard to quantify exactly how much these feelings of dread and disengagement cost, Gallup estimates that voluntary turnover, meaning people quitting, costs the economy in aggregate, here it is, 1 trillion every year. And this data was from before the Great Resignation of 2021. We all can relate to that, right? What's more, Disengaged employees who do stay put together, put another 10% drag on the business through low productivity. Okay. So we have to look at why are people feeling so anxious and disengaged and disrespected. The problem is clear. Too many people work for leaders that are disempowering, lacking curiosity, simply unwilling or unable to establish real emotional connections with their team. Very important. So I just wanted to share that this is a real crisis. We have to take a look at why is it that companies are experiencing such high turnover rates because of work environments that are not engaging, that are disempowering, leaders that are not being taught the right way to lead. Next slide, please. More statistics on crisis, state compensation and lack of participation in decision-making causing work-related stress. According to the American Psychological Association, 48% of a total 100% of people that took this survey spoke that they feel there's a lack of compensation, participation in decision-making, which is causing them work-related stress. 51% of those surveyed stated lack of growth and advancement causes work-related stress as well. People want to feel a part of the workplace. They want to feel that there is a roadmap, a blueprint for them to grow and become better and realize their dreams and realize their value. 40% of those surveyed indicate that they have a lot of challenges with their supervisors and managers. 40%, right? 50% of those surveyed indicate that they're facing physical fatigue, challenges around illnesses and mental health related issues, anxiousness, emotional stress. These are statistics that we have to really pay attention to, get to the crux of why this is happening. Next slide, please. All right, so let's bring it all together. So what did we learn? We learned that employees are unhappy with the work. They're not feeling a sense of purpose. We learned that employees are not engaged at work. Employees are not feeling that they're able to grow. They do not feel that they're able to grow. There is a lack of trust in leadership. Current work environments are causing psychological stress and mental duress. And the workforce is experiencing high turnover as a result of that. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about why leadership might be in crisis, right? There is an incredible obsession with outcomes. Okay, let's pause here for a minute. Outcomes are important, goals are important. Every company and organization is led effectively by goals, right? If you're going to school and you're taking an exam, there are goals. The goal is to pass with such and such percentage. If you are writing a dissertation or you're taking a degree of some sorts, there are goals, right? Everywhere you go, there are goals to be reached, right? But we are tied to KPIs, key performance indicators and metrics, but we miss out on the value. Many times employees are unable to see what the value is, what's in it for them. Okay, they come to work, they are taking care of what the employer needs, but really having a leader to take the time to explain how they fit in to these values and these goals is very important, right? Because we need them to be on the same page and we have to be able to explain where we're going for people to follow us. So while KPIs and metrics are important, we don't want to miss out on explaining the value and tie it in with how does this relate to me, the employee. Next slide, please. Why is leadership in crisis? Another thought on this. Leading from an egoic identity. Very important. Our thoughts and decisions are driven from a place of fear, self-interest, and a desire to enhance self. When we focus on leading from those things which drive us outwardly, We cannot elicit feelings of inspiration from people. We cannot elicit growth. We won't be able to help folks to come along with us, right? Leading from those things which connect us as human beings is what will inspire, is what will create community, is what will tie us together, keep us together, create a sense of trust. If you think of your own families, think of the things that keep you together as a family, right? Whether you're in a marriage relationship, a friendship, a professional setting, or a beautiful family setting, trust is the basis of every fully functioning relationship. And the same is true for the workplace. Building a sense of trust and leading from those things which bond us together will get us the outcomes we need. An egoic identity leading from that place will not elicit any growth and development in anyone. Next slide, please. Why leadership is in crisis. The influence of vanity and arrogance, an exaggerated sense of superiority, right? Again, the egoic identity, not giving credence to others' ideas, right? The idea is not mine. Belittling all others will never get us to where we need to be, right? Bringing a team together, when you think of a team, going back to the context of the family, you want to give the credence to those who participated in whatever it is that you're putting together. I can think of my own experience as a manager myself. People bounce off the walls and get excited when they realize that their leaders are paying attention to the efforts that they're putting into their work. I can tell you as a leader that I get the best out of my employees when I take a step back and let them lead. All I need to do is give them the resources that they need to succeed. And I need, when they do a good job, I need to broadcast it and share it with everyone that such and such did an excellent job, right? That is going to elicit within them the motivation to want to keep doing well for the employer, keep doing well for the company. So we have to remember that, right? Not leading from the egoic identity, giving credence to the ideas of others, not belittling others, right? And keeping that bad wolf at bay is important. Next slide, please. Why is leadership in crisis? Lack of self-awareness and burnout, right? Some of us can relate to this in one way or another. No clear awareness of our values. If you don't know who you are, you don't know where you're going. If you don't know who you are, you're going to have a hard time figuring out where to go. No clear insight or awareness into our tolerance level. We have to pause and think about us as a person, myself as an individual, and say to myself, okay, Noelle, okay, Jane, what matters to you? What are your values? What are the things that are important to you? For me, it's honesty, it's loyalty, it's respect, it's transparency. These things are important to me, right? Call those things out, write those things down, pay attention to those things. Understand your tolerance level. What triggers you, right? Write those things down, right? A lack of boundaries and self-care is another thing, is another reason why leadership is in crisis. When you identify your tolerance level and you identify those things that you need to set boundaries around, then you stand tall for those things and you protect your space, you protect your energy, right? And you don't allow yourself to be taken out of your safe space that will cause you to be triggered. So that is what self-awareness is about, is in each moment paying close attention to those things that keep you grounded. Next slide, please. Another reason why leadership is in crisis, lack of meaningful growth path and achievement. Earlier, we talked about everyone wanting to grow and achieve and realize and self-actualize, right? If you're not able to realize your full potential, you're not going to be happy. If you're not able to be motivated due to growth, you're not going to feel fulfilled and satisfied in the work you're doing. Lack of growth is going to negatively impact your well-being. So being able to find yourself in a role where these things are being nourished, are being fertilized for you via your leader, via your environment is very important. Next slide, please. Okay, what should we do about all this? Noel, we spoke about values, we spoke about harnessing and harming and our good wolf versus our bad wolf. Okay, so now what do we do? Know thyself. Know your wolf. Knowing thyself is the beginning of all wisdom. That's what Socrates said. And then Nelson Mandela said, learn to know yourself, to search realistically and regularly the process of your own mind and feelings. Your mind and your feelings are very important. You need all of those, and you have to stand strongly in your truth in all of those things, right? So pay attention to those things. You're assertive, that's a great thing. You're strong-minded, strong-willed, that's wonderful. Own those things and try to determine what is important to you and how can you express those gifts that are unique to you in a way where you can flourish. That's the goal here. And Lao says, he who knows others is wise, but he who knows himself is enlightened. I love that quote. Next slide, please. Okay, so get to know your wolf. We talked a little bit about that. So how do you do that? How do your emotions operate? So pause and ask yourself the question, okay, how are my emotions operating? Know what gets you triggered and why. That's okay if you're triggered by something. It's something to pay attention to. It's something to take note of. And it's something to strategize how to curtail, right? Know your safe zone, the type of environment that allows you to thrive, the people that you need to be around to thrive. Understand your needs. Your needs are your own, and it's okay to need what you need and to want what you want. Okay? What do you need to feel grounded? Pay attention to those things. What makes your cup feel full? Jabera just spoke about filling the cup earlier, right? Your cup has to be full. I like to talk about the cookie jar. And as a person who's passionate about leadership, I always say to folks that I speak to about this topic, you can't give cookies to someone if your cookie jar is empty, metaphorically speaking, right? Your cookie jar has to be full. Your cup has to be full for you to pour from it. You can't pour from an empty cup. And the minute you are pouring from an empty cup, that means you're not grounded, right? And what's going to happen as a result of that? You're going to be triggered easily. You're going to be angered easily. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to feel a sense of no self-worth. You're going to be feeling unfulfilled. That's an indication that you're off the ground. You're not grounded. You need to get back in your safe zone. You need to get back into your zone, into your tribe, into your team that's going to support you, allow you to flourish, fill you up. Okay? So pay attention to what you need to feel supported. Number three, understand your values, your strengths, your limitations. What do you do well? Do you speak well? Are you a coach? What brings you joy? What brings you passion? Maybe you're an introvert. Maybe it's more working things on the back end in terms of a job role. Perhaps it's public speaking. Perhaps it's working on special projects. Whatever it is that brings you joy, what do you do well? Pay attention to those things. What do you perceive to be your limitations? Those things are important to note as well. And what do you perceive to be your weaknesses? Identifying your weaknesses is also very important. It's okay to have a weakness. It's not a bad thing. Realizing it is important. Next slide, please. Okay. Another thing on values, I want to go back to Dr. John Baird and Edward Sullivan here when they talked about values and getting to know your wolf. And I wanted to share some things that I found here that I think will be valuable in talking about values. What do you need to be your best? So when a house plant wilts, a lot of us may be gardeners, think of a house plant. When a house plant is wilting, we do not yell at it. We do not offer it more money or put it on a performance improvement plan. We give it more water, we move it more closer to the sun, and we make sure it's getting the nutrients it needs until the leaves perk up again and regain their color. How many of you have had houseplants that has lost its luster and you look at the poor thing and go, okay, I need to give you some love, right? The same goes for us as people. Leading with heart is hard work. It's not easy, folks. It takes a lot of energy to be courageous, to be curious, to be vulnerable, to have tough conversations, right? Uh, for this reason, we need to be very mindful that we are getting our physical, emotional, and environmental needs met, lest we descend into unproductive behavior, right? So whenever you notice folks are being unproductive, speaking unproductively, engaging in behavior that is not helpful, that's an indication that something is missing there, right? There's a lack of feeling fulfilled. There's a lack of feeling alignment, and that we have to pay attention to. When faced with difficulty with a colleague, instead of playing the blame game, what if we just got curious to see if each of us was getting our needs met? What if we asked ourselves on a regular basis what we and our teams really need to succeed and to thrive? Are we eating and sleeping well? When was the last time we exercised? Do we need more unstructured time together? How about fewer Zoom calls? We could use those, right? Longer lunches, less Slack, more direction, hour-long walks in the afternoon, 20 minutes of meditation, maybe, right? Maybe a little bit of kombucha, some cold brew on the tap, perhaps, to help you contemplate the question, what do you need to succeed? We have to pause and pay attention, discern this at the core of us, really ask ourselves the question, what do we need to succeed? And the next thing to think about, what fears are holding you back? Now and then, fear holds us all back. We create negative or self-limiting stories about ourselves by uncovering what frightens us and by getting radically curious about our fears and the fears of our team members, right? We begin to rid ourselves of blocks, of untruths, of stories, old defeatist stories that weigh us down. Let's tell the truth. If our energies are weighed down, we can't inspire or be creative, right? We will instead persist in unhelpful behaviors and engage in a lot of triggering instances and issues. And then our responses are not going to be helpful. It's going to be from a place of fear. So at an organizational level, the acknowledged fears and executives and leaders need to acknowledge that there may be some fears happening. As a leader, you may need to pay attention to that. That could lead to conflict within teams. This sense of aversion, conflict aversion, and perfectionism, self-righteousness. People are afraid to ask questions, and there are a lot of silos and the so-called imposter syndrome. These often show up in cultures, right? And create toxic work environment, lead to widespread risk avoidance, inability to give and receive feedback, lack of constructive criticism and constructive debates, right? So we have to take a look at that by exploring some of these stories that we're telling ourselves, right? And being vulnerable, creating a safe space where people can share the things that concern them. Feelings are important, and we have to make space in the workplace to hear each other out. Ponder these things. What are the fears that are holding me back? What am I afraid of? Um, am I afraid of being judged by others? What are the coping mechanisms that I'm using that may be unhealthy to those around me, unhealthy in the relationships I'm trying to build? What desires drive you? And which ones might derail you? Paying attention to that is important. Our deepest desires can be an incredible source of motivation. Feeling like you are winning, like you are contributing, like you have some sense of influence. If you can think of a moment where you felt like you were adding some value to the world and you were being your best creative self, how did that feel? How did your heart feel? How did your shoulders feel, your neck feel? You felt really good because you felt you were inspiring, right? You want to operate in that feeling consistently, and being able to be self-aware and put yourself in an environment where those things are nourished and flourished is very important. Um, you want to make sure that you're being influenced to win, that you're growing, you're learning, you're being of service to others, right? You're engaging in inspirational conversations, uh, versus unhealthy conversations. You're being able to express your desires effortlessly, without resistance, without any type of unhealthy degradation in any way. What are your gifts? What are your talents? The greatest leaders that I've worked with, we've worked with, some of us have worked with, are able to pull out the best gifts in people, right? That's what we want to do. We want to be leaders that pull out the greatest in our people. People who experience the greatest sense of meaning and purpose in their work are generally more committed and satisfied with their jobs. So we want to be leaders that pull out purpose. When you are able to help people to find out what their purpose is, you are able to help them to lead longer and happier lives. The question is, what creates a sense of purpose and meaning in you, in me? Pausing, paying attention to that, asking ourselves those questions. And hey, if you're unable to decide these things in the moment, finding a mentor or someone, a therapist that can help you to unpack some of these and be able to come to that place of self-awareness is important. Okay, so let's review this slide quickly. Why does this matter? We spoke about feelings and values, aligning actions, lessening internal conflict. When you know yourself, you're able to maintain self-control. When you know yourself, you're more tolerant to others. When you know yourself, you're able to adapt better to situations, right? Knowing yourself internally is important. When you know yourself, you're able to be resilient. We're all different, one person different from another. We both can't be the same, should not be the same. That is why we're so creative and special, right? And we need strengths and weaknesses of each other to be able to push a team forward. Next slide, please. So here's the question. Which wolf will you feed? The wolf who inspires versus discourage? The wolf who helps others to shine versus suppressing their light? The wolf who focuses on understanding barriers and bottlenecks versus outcomes only? The wolf who reassures and stays logical and practical versus fear-mongering and triangulating? The wolf who resolves conflict through empathy and honesty while holding others accountable versus being conflict averse? The wolf who speak up and say something when something needs to be said? Next slide, please. The wolf who will invest in growing others. The wolf who will recognize others for their hard work. The wolf who will stand up and speak up for others in the face of fear. The wolf who will embrace differences in diversity and encourage inclusivity. The wolf who understands that your behavior has great impact on your team, be it positive or be it negative. The wolf who was vested in building and sustaining a positive, psychologically safe, and open work culture. Next slide, please. So how do we lead from within? Well, we're going to work on feeding our good wolf. That's what we want to do. Feed our good wolf by being compassionate, being transparent, being fair, being respectful, being grounded, being mindful, being genuine, being conscious. Next slide, please. And here are some quotes that I thought would be very, very helpful and really just put this into perspective. Alan Cohen, a great author that I really, really like a lot. See change as a gift and an opportunity. Change is a gift and an opportunity. Everything is interpretation. Everything is interpretation. Let that sink in for a little bit. Bless endings as beginnings. Bless endings as beginnings. Trust timing. Trust timing. Change can be your friend if you let it. Change can be your friend if you let it. What seems like a dead end is often guidance to a new direction. What seems like a dead end is often guidance to a new direction. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you to my contributors that helped me to put this together. These are all the folks here that was inspirational and helpful to put this together. I thank you all for being here today, and I hope this was helpful to you and that you were able to pick some nuggets out of this to put in your toolbox to be greater than you are today. And just know that you bring what you have is enough, and what you bring to the table is enough. And I hope this is helpful to give you a deeper sense of awareness and vision for the future and for your path. Thank you.
Noelle, this has been absolutely wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Such an inspiring presentation, such enriching content that you have shared with us. I
Thank
just
you.
forwarded here to the next slide, your gratitude list.
Thank you
And
so
I want
much.
to say that your entire presentation is like being upheld by this spirit of gratitude. I can hear it in the way that you talk, even in the way that you have shared with us about leadership and the qualities and some of the things that we need to do to better ourselves and feed our
Yes.
good wolves and all of that. It's just this has been a beautiful, beautiful environment and atmosphere of gratitude throughout the entire presentation. I
Thank you
want
so
to
much.
say thank you to you. And then I also want to say thank you to those who are in the audience and who have been engaging in the chat throughout this entire time. I don't see any particular questions in the chat right now, but I do want to ask if in the chat, if someone could just kind of drop what is something that you have learned or something that stuck out to you today? What stuck out most to you today throughout the presentation? Drop that in the chat if you will. Drop that in the chat if you will, so that others can read it. We can share with one another what it is that really stuck out the most to you personally. Here are a few things that I jotted down throughout the presentation. Dr. Sabri, you want to ask a question? Julia, do you mind unmuting Dr. Sabri so she can ask a question? I want to.
No, she unmuted me. She did, but
Oh,
I want
okay.
you to go ahead. Thank you,
Okay,
Noelle. Thank you
great.
so much. But I want
You're
you to go
welcome.
ahead with your list because you were on a roll. So I don't want to stop you.
Okay, cool. So a couple of things that stuck out to me. Of course, you put emphasis on the choosing to feed the wolf.
Mm.
Choosing, like every time you brought in a nugget, it was choosing to do this, choosing to do that. And again, saying that it was our responsibility, you know, whether we would go to the left or the right with this
Right.
thing, whether we would go good or bad. And then I
Yes.
wrote down here that you won't get to the top by stepping on other people. That quote that Laura Marquez's boss
Yes.
said to her, I thought that was great. You mentioned the book Leading with the Heart, right? Leading
Yes,
with the Heart.
yes,
What?
yes.
Who's the
That
author?
the author of this book, and it's a very good book. I recommend it to anyone who is passionate about the topic of leadership. It's John Beard, Baird, and Edward Sullivan. This is a book filled with so many practical nuggets, and it's written very simply, no fluff, just in very simple terms. And it really is just a blueprint as to understanding and relating to how leadership is done the right way. Very, very good book. As you can see, I have a lot of tabs on there because ever so often I go back to it, to refresh myself on some tips as well.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Noel. And then here's where you got me in the very, very beginning.
Yeah,
Those statistics about 82% of people, there were other, but the first one was that 82% of people are not engaged at work. That is
right.
really, really high number.
Right. It is a very high number. And even myself, thinking of myself and my journey throughout my career, and times when I have not felt inspired and just going to work because it's just paycheck and, punching in and out. And you get the best out of people when they are fully engaged and being creative in the work they're doing. And that's what I realize, right? And the problem is, while we are struggling economically and a lot of companies are trying to meet goals and stay afloat and things like that, which are all important, but we have to find a balance, right? And a way to be able to tap into the values and the passions of our employees to get to where we need to be. And I think that's where we're falling short as a as a nation, as a world, right? Is how do we merge the two together? How do we fuse the passions of people and tap into their creativity and get them to buy in to the mission, vision, values of what we're doing, rather than just business as usual, if that makes sense.
Definitely it does. Definitely. And then one last thing, and then I'll let it go. We'll see what some other, because this was just so good to me. I love this analogy about the house plant. And if
Mm,
we have a house plant in our home that is not doing well, it's
that's
starting to
right.
get a little brown or something like that,
Yes.
is our first inclination to throw it away,
Yell at it.
yell at it? We can't, normally it is
Yeah,
to show it some type of love,
that's right. Yes,
nourishment. We have to love it back to health.
that's right.
And then doing that with people, taking that same concept and that same attitude and bringing that into the workplace, I
Yes.
think that would shift the dynamic of many, many workplaces. So if we're leading, if we're in leadership or whatever, if we have some type of a colleague or someone, a direct report or
Yep.
however that may work, and that person is showing signs of, demotivation or
Vision. Yep.
lack of productivity, if they're just acting out,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Perfectly
Then
said.
yeah, there needs to be love. Love needs to be fostered and by that could mean a many different things, but what is it that's needed? What does this person need in this particular season to help them perform well and to meet to get back up, right?
That's right.
To
And
thrive again.
Japira, as you're talking about that, I'm thinking, you know, um, in this society and many societies, there is this perception of professionalism, which is important, right? We want to uphold standards of professional behavior and comport ourselves professionally in the workplace. And what we've managed to do while we've created successful and automated processes. In the meantime, if we're not mindful, we're kind of taking the human component out of it. So, we're taking feelings out of it, right? Thus the humanity out of the work. And we need both, right? Because feelings is an indication that something is off. And though feelings may not be fully factual, we still have to stop and assess why are our employees feeling that way? Why is my sister feeling this way? Why is my dad, my mother, my aunt? What's going on for them? And listen to that, right? And then help to reframe any misconceptions in the feeling. But what we've managed to do in a corporate environment is keep your feelings out of it. Keep your feelings out of it, right? We that means we're ultimately saying keep your humanity out of it. And therein lies the problem, because then people are going to just operate in a robotic state and come in, punch out, punch out, and keep it moving. Whereas if we engage the feelings, and it's hard work, it's not easy, right? It's energy investing. Engage the feelings, listen to it, and try to assess those feelings, identify strengths from those feelings of those employees, and pair it with stretch assignments that will lift them up, that will grow them, fill them up. So I think that's where we're missing the mark. And I think we can definitely do this if we start to pay attention to those things.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful and perfect. So practical,
Yeah,
what you just shared with us on how to bring the life back into that employee plan.
that's right.
Right.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. Dr. Sabri, you had a question.
Yes.
I did. I did. Thank you. That was all great. And I felt like I had two questions actually, and I felt like
Yeah.
she answered them. The first
Okay.
one was about the resources, right? We got the book.
Yes.
So my second question was, how can leaders cultivate self-awareness while effectively leading and inspiring their team? Like what practices or tools would you recommend to help navigate that balance?
How can leaders foster self-awareness? I think, Dr. Sabri, thinking of my own self as a leader, or someone who's aspiring to be a good leader, it's first of all, in those moments where I miss the mark, is paying attention to those things. So setting up a process where I'm able to self-reflect, okay? For me, my moments of self-reflection, I built a tribe around myself to include you, Dr. Sabri. And my tribe are filled with people who I trust and love. And I say that word love openly because though I'm a professional, love is important. It's an important human need. We all need it, right? And so identify who your tribe is. Who are the people that you can go to support you when you miss the mark, when you feel down, when you feel out, when you feel invalidated? So I have a therapist, I have a coach, I have good friends who I will pick the phone up and call and say, hey, meet me for a drink, okay? And those are the people who refresh me. I have my favorite TV shows that I like to watch, my favorite latte that I like to make, right? That's my tribe. That's my go-to. Decide what your go-to is. Decide what your toolbox is, and lean into that when you feel a sense of emptiness. And it's okay to take those PTO days, right? If you're tired and paying attention to those times when you're depleted. I think that's also very important.
I
I hope that
agree.
answers
Thank you. So,
your
yeah, it actually does, but it always made me think. So, recently I saw a video and this person was talking about five people that you should always have in your circle, right? The comforter, the cheerleader, I can't remember all five of them right off the top of my head, but what you said also made me think that you need to have someone in your circle who is going to challenge you or who is going to check you
Yes.
when it's necessary, right? Because I'm thinking about feeding
Yes.
that bad wolf, right? Sometimes people may openly, right, share that they feed their bad wolf, or they may share stories about how things transpired at work. But I think we need to be
Mm,
comfortable with the people that are in our tribe, right? To be able to say you were wrong,
that's
right?
right.
Or to say
Yes.
that I think that you could have or may have
Yes.
been able to handle that differently. And I think that's going
100%.
to be important, right? Because it raises that self-awareness. And you said the key word, right? You have to be able to reflect,
Yes.
right? Because that reflection will uncover things that you probably couldn't uncover in the heat of the moment. So I think that's very important too.
I
And I'm going to
agree.
take up, I'm going to stop because I know
Yes.
we have two other questions in the audience. So
Okay.
let them
Yes.
get their questions answered. Thank you again for this.
Thank you so much. It's a thank you. Awesome. So looking at, I don't know that there are other questions, but if
They're
someone
gonna,
does,
yeah, I can step in and help Japera. So
perfect.
Dana and Autumn, if you ladies are still willing to speak. Dana, may I take you off mute for just a second? We've got Dana.
Yeah, I was gonna type it.
Oh, that's fine. Autumn, would you like to speak? It's whatever you ladies want. Y'all are in charge.
Autumn dropped hers in the chat.
Okay, fantastic. So as a leader, what are some things you could do to gain more trust for your employees and keep them fully engaged and moving with purpose?
That's such a beautiful question. I think just, in this book, Leading with the Heart, John Beard talked about leaders' inability to connect with their employees in a human way. And we talked about being able to trust each other, right? If you think about your family or someone you love, someone you appreciate, at the basis of it, you fully trust that person wholeheartedly, which is why you feel comfortable to express yourself, to express who you are, to express your fears, your loves, your passions. And the same is true for leadership. I think we need to find a way to connect on a human level. And I think when we do that, bringing forth authenticity, and our employees can feel that authenticity from us, right? I think that's where we start to foster and engage purpose. Because before talking about inspiring anyone, there has to be a foundation built, a foundation of trust, a foundation of empathy and awareness, and all those things need to go into it first before trying to pour into someone. So that's what I would say. I don't know if others agree, and based off the readings that I've had as well, I would say trust needs to be the first step, connecting from on a human level.
And Dana asks, how, as a leader, would you recommend the best way to approach an ethical, complex situation to resolve it while remaining true to your own values and purpose?
Wow, that's another beautiful one. How, as a leader, would you recommend the best approach on ethical, complex situation to resolve it with remaining true to your own values and purpose? Okay, crucial conversations, and that's an actual book. One of the things that we shy away from, not all of us, some of us, as human beings, is having crucial conversations, right? And we have to have it. That's where growth has to happen. But in order to have a crucial conversation, it is wise that we have it with people who can manage the discussion in a way where it goes down a path it goes down a healthy path, right? It doesn't go down a destructive path. What do I mean by that? Okay. So there are times, even now, where I have to have difficult, crucial conversations with employees, right? Maybe they're missing the mark on different things. And it's always how you deliver bad news, right? It's not the news itself, okay? As a leader myself, whenever I am
going to deliver news to an employee of something that they're missing the mark on, I always start with what they do well. What they do well. What have you done well? Well, let's say, Jane, I have to have this difficult conversation with you about something that you're not doing correctly. But I always start with, this is what you've done really well. And this is the growth I've seen so far. And I really appreciate the efforts you've placed here. However, here are some thoughts or some things that I think we could collaborate, the usage of keywords, right? We could collaborate on working on making better. And then you engage them in feeling comfortable with sharing feedback on how they can collaborate on the problem that they themselves are having issues with. And what I found is the approach. When you approach it from that manner, what happens is the employee will feel vulnerable to be able to say, well, you know what, this training process is not working for this reason, that reason, that reason. In turn, that discussion becomes a discussion of learning for all involved. And then you can bring forth strategies to move the workflow forward. So approach at the end of the day is what it is. Now, if, let's say, you are a person that is easily triggered, you feel a sense of fear, bringing forth those constructive conversations, you must bring someone in the room who can help to calm you, to bring the silos down, so that conversation can be had safely. So it's all about self-awareness, paying attention to how you're feeling about delivering the news, and facing that, asking questions, and engaging your tribe or someone who you trust to come along with you to have the conversation to make sure it's received well. I hope that answers the question, Dana.
Awesome. It sounds like it. Yes. Okay, great. So Dana says, yes, that totally answered her questions. And I just want to say again, thank you, Noelle. This has been one of the best lunch and learns that we have ever had.
It's my
because
pleasure.
the information is so relevant.
Yes.
And it speaks to our heart. So thank you so much for sharing with us your expertise and your wisdom. Thank you for being with us today.
Yes.
I want to leave everyone with just a little bit of information about the Qualified. Please do follow us on social media if you are not already, so that you can stay up to date on what the Qualified has going on, what we're offering, different events that we may be providing, different specials that we may be offering to those who are in our audience and to those who follow us. So please do follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn even, and watch these types of informational sessions on YouTube. You can visit our website at www.the-qualified.com. And then we also want to encourage everyone to join us for next month's Brunch and Learn. In the month of March, we will be featuring Miss Kelly Fast. She'll be speaking to us about the future of health information and health information management, health informatics, excuse me, and health information management. So please make sure that you join us for that Brunch and Learn as well. And those who are in our audience, if you are ever interested in presenting or sharing your expertise, we welcome you to let us know that. And so please email me at events@the-qualified.com and let me know that you're interested or you have something specific that you would like to talk about. Okay, everyone. So until next time, again, we want to thank all of you for joining us today, and huge thank you to our guest, Noelle Dell Brown. Thank you for being with us, and we hope all the best for everyone, and we will see you all soon. Bye-bye.